about to hear a revolution in talk radio, Liberty Talk Radio, where the critical thinking will defrag your mind of propaganda-ridden viruses induced by mass media news programming. No BS here, just the facts.
And now we present to you America's quintessential iconoclastic anomaly. Wow. In talk radio, your host, Joe Cristiano.
Welcome, everyone, to Liberty Talk Radio, America's libertarian voice, broadcasting from our studio in Tulsa, Oklahoma, to around the world. I'm your host, Joe Cristiano, and this is your antidote to popular talk radio. Folks, it's time for us to take back control of our government now before this bureaucratic, oversized, and self-serving federal government starves us of our property, our freedom, our rights, and our liberty. But to do this, we must shed conventional thinking. That's the key, conventional thinking regarding our political structure. We need to be revolutionaries in thought, dissidents in action. Only after we recognize what our government is doing to our freedom and our Constitution will we start taking it back. And this program is always just about that. Folks, yesterday I had a podcast, but I just couldn't help myself. I was squirming watching television today because I had nothing better to do. At my age, I get my work done, and then all of a sudden I get bored to death. I tell you, about the worst thing that's ever happened to me is that I retired. So now I'm only semi-retired, and I'm looking forward to do some work. So that's why I'm doing this extra podcast today. Well, the past couple of shows that I saw, I watch YouTube, because I can select what programs I'd like to listen to. And one, I listened to a Professor Richard Wolff. He's a PhD, nice guy, very intelligent. Unfortunately, he's misguided. He's a socialist, and he's absolutely blind to the free market system. He's absolutely blind to what people go through in order to start a corporation. Now, I have started businesses, and I have helped finance many businesses, most of which I have lost every penny. And I mean that. And I've done it, but I invested the money because I knew the people, and I felt sorry, and I lost a little fortune each time, but I let it go. You live and you learn. But my point being is that he knows absolutely, or I shouldn't say this, he does not really truly understand the business side of the structure. He always takes the side of the employee and how the employees are mistreated and how they're not part of the corporation. They're just being used, to produce something, and all the wealth goes to these few people on the board. This monster goes on and on and on. That program was followed by one which was even worse. It talked about the homeless crisis. And from my old stomping neighborhood, I'm a street kid from Harlem, sang doo-wop back in the 50s. I can still hear those songs in my head. And then I graduated all the way to the Bronx, where I got my head beat in. And it was interesting because the Bronx was breaking up into territories. They always called it territories, and the Dukes controlled those territories. The Count, there's a Rieger Avenue gang, and of course in New York was the Red Wings, the biggest gang in New York. Anyway, but this is where I came from. Now, one advantage that I had that apparently now most children don't have today is that we had a nuclear family. In other words, when I was out of turn, boy, my father, he gave it to me. I still remember each one of those punches. They hurt, But he did it for a reason. He wanted me. He was disciplining me to make sure that I stayed on the straight and narrow. My mother was the same. My mother was a sweetheart. She never didn't beat me or anything like that, But she always worried about me, and she made sure that things were done right. The family was very, very close together. My two aunts lived around the corner. My grandmother lived around the corner, so we lived in this, ghetto of people, but it was a nice neighborhood, quite frankly, on First Avenue. Well, my point being is that I grew up because in an environment where education was absolutely paramount to everything else. And if I got out of line, poof, boy, I felt it, and I felt it good for a long period of time. Yes. Were there gang fights in my neighborhood? Yes. Were I involved in some of them? Yes. Did I get my head beat in? Yes. In fact, I got some brain damage on one of them. Guy hit me with a baseball bat in the head, and I haven't been right since, by the way. But so I come from the neighborhood that's on TV. But the neighborhoods that are on TV are very different than today. Now, Professor Wolf takes the position generally. Now, I'm going to generalize this because we don't have time to go through, his hours worth of video, is that the corporations are getting bigger and bigger and sort of like digesting all of the economy, to their benefit and at the expense of the employees who get nothing. So there's the big guys there, the big money guys, and then there's everyone else just starving in the street. Well, in a sense, that may be right. But what he doesn't pick up is the fact that most of these corporations was not most, I should say probably all of them, was started by small companies. I have a small company. I started from scratch. I had nothing. Absolutely nothing, not even the knowledge about it, because I financed someone else in a business that he did nothing. It went broke. I got all the equipment. I didn't know what to do with it, so I started the business myself. I had no idea what business I was in, but I was, like my father, sort of an entrepreneur, and I can tell you, I could spend hours telling you really funny stories about how I started this business, but I started this business, and now I have an occupational health testing company, which happens to be the biggest in Oklahoma. Now, it didn't come without a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, but the important thing, what really did happen, is that instead of me sitting down saying, I lost my money, I better go for unemployment and apply for welfare, I hit the road. I just got on the phone. I recall calling people, telling people that, this is sort of what I did, which I really didn't even know what we did at the time, because I know what all these machines did, and they say, did you do this? And I'd always say yes. And then I find out, no, we didn't do that. And I'd have to go out and buy more equipment so I can do the job. But my point being is that I came from a nuclear family that impressed upon me that working hard is my responsibility. Being irresponsible is my responsibility and no one else's. In other words, if I hang around the street corner with Bobby and all those guys and smoke dope and all this other stuff, that's no one's fault other than my own. Now, I probably would have done that if my family was not very, very strict. They're very European, you did everything by the book and you respected your elders. I used to take care of my grandfather. No matter what he needed, I went and got. That's it. Period. No questions asked. No matter if I had a date that night, but I had to take care of I took care of my grandfather. I did not break that rule. But the nuclear family was very important. Also of importance was that they sent me to a relatively good school when I was young. Now, I was the world's worst student. I think I was. Every time I graduated from one class grade to another, I was shocked. I said, how did I do that? I never passed a test, I was really a horrible student, When I went to college, I was a horrible student. But I muddled through. I finally got my act together, and I graduated, and I had my first job was a pretty good job. I was the advertising and sales promotion coordinator for AMC stores. And that's Macy's, all the big stores, all their private brand merchandise. Great job. In fact, my boss was the first Marlboro man, Andy Statsky. He was my boss, yeah. Anyway, but my point being is that because, and by the way, my salary was $85 a week. And I worked at 1440 Broadway, most expensive real estate in the world at the time. I was making nothing. But even making nothing, literally making nothing, and getting married at the time, I always put money away. In fact, I used to put $5 away at least every single month, and I had my little savings account card. Remember, you used to get that, and they used to put it in the machine and showed, now you have $35.40 in your account, That was my first priority, is to save some money, to always have money on me. Now, this did not come because I was brilliant and I could project the future. I did it because I came from a nuclear family that insisted that the first thing you do is be responsible for what you are doing and be responsible for the people around you, especially your family. Now, I gave you that long introduction for a reason, right? Because everyone that I see on television, especially people who are homeless today, if you ask them, what's your situation? They don't ask you how you got there. They only ask what's the. And if they ask a female, she says, "Well, I have usually 1, 2, or 3 or more children. I have no job. We live in a tent or wherever, or in a housing project somewhere with government assistance and whatever." And you go, "Oh, geez, we have to do something about it." Well, we having to do something about it is too late. Now, well, I want to go back to Professor Professor Richard. I forgot his name. Anyway, the professor I was just talking about. Anyway, and he has the YouTube. I can't remember his name. Isn't that terrible? I got to look it up. Hold on a second. It's driving me nuts. How could I forget his name? I can't find it. Anyway, but his point being that, the big corporations are to blame, basically, for all of this, for this poverty, is that because they're hoarding all of the money. They're not giving people opportunity. They're not doing anything. They just care for themselves, and they just suck up all the money and leave everyone else to dry in the street and die. And that's such bull. The problem is, it's not the corporations. The problem is that you have, in many cases, not all cases, but in many cases, you have people having children out of wedlock, right? They have no education to speak of. The education system that they go to doesn't teach them anything, teaches them no skills whatsoever. And in fact, if you are doing horribly, they will pass you because they have to move you on. And if you don't pass them, you can get yourself in trouble, because it's not a reflection of the school system. It's a reflection only of the school teacher. Obviously, the school system is perfect. Everyone should come out of school being absolutely brilliant, know what they want to do for a living. And if they don't, it's because the teacher didn't do the right job. Well, the teacher is a product of the school system. And as a result, they have to play by those by those rules. As a result, when people graduate high school today, generally speaking, now this is a generalized statement, generally speaking, they do not have skills from which they can get a job. Now, what's worse than not having the skill is they do not have what my father used to call the right mentality. In other words, while they're in school, they don't think, geez, I better get my act together. I better find out what I really enjoy doing, and even if I get a job as a mechanic, once I get a job as a mechanic, after I graduate, maybe making minimum wage or a little above that, maybe changing oil, I should learn something about cars, become an expert in carburation, in some part of the car, and maybe start my own business and eventually build up so I become the expert in that field. In other words, that's the way I think, right? And that's the way people thought many, many years ago. Well, today, kids, young people graduate high school, they have no interest, they have no focus, they have no idea what to do because school does not prepare them. So the school system is the failure. It's not the large corporation who eventually hires them, puts them on an assembly line, and then they pay them a pretty good salary for what they do, because they have no skills. And then you blame the corporation. He blames Wolf, Dr. Wolf blames the corporation, for treating the employees without giving in a less than humane manner. The way he doesn't put it that way, but they don't really take interest in the employees to better their lives. Well, it's not the company's responsibility to ensure someone's life. It's the person's responsibility. It's the family's responsibility. So you have people who are working for corporations really have no skills, have never thought about adopting a skill or learning something, but they're lucky enough to have a job. And usually it's a low-paying job on the assembly line, and it's tough. I worked in a factory on 126th Street. It was not easy, especially in the summertime when before that was no air conditioning at the time, and everything from the air pollution to the heat and everything was not the best in the world, right? But I graduated from that, left that, and decided I didn't want to do that again the rest of my life. So I decided I would go to college and maybe I'd get a better job. Maybe at least I work in an office where I wouldn't have to cough all the time from all the dirt in the air. But the thing is, that was my responsibility, and my responsibility came from my parents. My parents' insistence that I do well, no matter how irresponsible I was to myself, and I was irresponsible. My parents made sure I got back on track. Right? Now, let's go back to the homeless people. They interview these people, and believe me, I feel sorry for them. I'm not criticizing them at all. I'm criticizing the situation. They interview them. They say, well, Miss So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so, what is your, what's your plight? You're out here in the cold, with your children. Well, I have 2 children. I have 3 children. We live in a homeless shelter. Sometimes there's no room for us. We have to sleep outside, and it goes on and on and on. Well, then they say, well, the government should be doing more for it. There are too many people making a lot of money and not giving enough opportunities to people. You got it all wrong, all wrong, all wrong. And Professor Wolf, you've got it all wrong. 100% all wrong. Not 99%, 100% all wrong. The thing is that when this woman, was single and she went to high school, I'm sure she went to high school, and some of them may even have college educations. They went to school, they should have said, what am I going to do with my life? That decision is my responsibility. I'm responsible for that. No one else. And if I fail, if I wind up on the street, I can't blame the guy next door. I can't blame the teacher. I can't blame the government. I can't blame my family. I've got to blame myself. So now that I'm in school, Johnny wants to go to bed with me. He'll get me pregnant. Then I'll really be in trouble. Maybe I shouldn't go out with Johnny, and maybe I should stay away from boys for a while and find out what I want to do for a living, become established, and then if Johnny's a nice guy, I may marry him, or if he asks me to marry him, then maybe from that point on, if Johnny, make sure he has a good job, he does a good job, throw the bum out, and then with the 2 of us, we can decide whether or not we want to start a family. Now, that's the way it should be going. But when they never ask these people on the street who are starving to death with children, and believe me, my heart goes out to them. Listen, I'm a street kid from Harlem. I understand that stuff. I sang doo-wop on the streets. I got beat up on the street. I got baseball batted on the street. I had gangs gang up on me because I was in the wrong neighborhood. I've been there, believe me, a long time ago, but I've been there. And I sympathize with all of that. But today, there's no one giving guidance to the students. Now, assuming that the students come from a dysfunctional family, the single mother, single father, whatever situation, and the mother or father, whatever parent they have, if they have any, does not have the time, they may be working 2 jobs to help their children get on the straight and narrow. You think the school system itself, would talk about these issues instead of talking about the same stupid thing they do from the time that you're in kindergarten to the time you got to graduate high school. Basically, you're learning this. You're studying the same subject in the same manner. Maybe they just add a little bit more complexity to it as you get older. But they don't teach people how to make money. They don't teach people how to be responsible, how to look for a job, how to decide what they're going to do for a living. It's the school system, because the school system has no interest whatsoever of ensuring that the people get smart. And the school system doesn't want the people smart because it's run by the government. And if people get smart, they'll realize this government sucks and something's got to be done about it. So we would rather make the people reliant on the government so that we adore the government, we bow to the government, and we do everything the government asks us to do, because if not, then the checks stop rolling in. So we want to become dependent on the government. That's why the government wants to take over the school system. It has taken over the school system, totally destroyed it. That's why the government's even taking over the college situation by giving out these loans that students would never be able, most would never be able to pay off. They want to take over health care, so they know you don't stay in line, you're not going to get your health care paid for. So Professor Wolf has everything wrong. Absolutely everything wrong. Now, his facts are right. His conclusions suck. They're just not reality. Now, if he worked in an environment, I worked in factories, and now I have my own company. Of course, every day when my employees walk in, I whip them to hell. You probably know that's the opposite. In fact, there's been many months where we had really tough times. I took no salary. I made sure my employees got paid, and if they did something special, they always got a bonus. Even if I didn't make a dime, even if I had to borrow the money from one of my other companies or from a bank in order to do that. So I want Professor Wolf to please talk about people more like me. There's more of us than there are the guys that don't give a damn. Now, he talks about the major manufacturers and how they don't care about the employees. No, wait, the employees don't care about the employees. That's the problem. If the employees really cared, they'd say, I have a problem. I have to do something about it. And what that means is that I have to learn something. Even if I go to a library, free of charge, I can get online, do whatever I want, learn something, think about it. Or maybe even better, not even better, but in addition to that, speak to someone who is successful and say, this is my plight. What do you suggest? I need some direction, assuming they don't have parents to go to. But no, he just says, no, get any job you want. And then when they get the job, he said, in fact, today I heard him talk. He said, the employees are not asked to join in on the decision-making process of the job. Well, sure, they're asked for feedback, and that they want to know what's going on. They want feedback from the employees, but they also want employees to be responsible. And the good employees become supervisors or group leaders or whatever, and they do get raises. Now, many of these employees have a diploma but no education. You know what I mean, all right? Yet they get medical care in many cases. They get paid above minimum wage, and they get paid overtime. They're not, and no one is forcing them to work there. They are working there because they themselves placed them in a position of not finding a better job. And Professor Wolf, you better get that through your head. I've been there. I know the difference. You've always been in school. You've never had a job a day in your life. And all you do is read these communist, leftist books and then repeat all the crap that you read. And it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. You should be a street person. You should be broke. You should start your own business, and you realize that, life is tough. And it's always toughest for the boss. Now, the large corporations are their selfish stockholders on the board and all that who don't give a damn. Of course, it's everywhere. It's even in the school system. It's even in the churches. It's even in, hey, would you believe it? It's even in government, who's screwing everybody. Why don't you attack the government and say, get the government out of everything and let the free market work? Professor Wolf talks as if, we make a product and the customer has to buy it. They don't care. I mean, they can make the crappiest product in the world and the whole bit, and nobody, they're tough luck. They don't like it. It's tough. Make it yourself. Of course not. The people in a marketplace where there are competitors all over the world competing for that one purchase. So they have to make a product that is economical, low cost. And that's why a lot of our factories have moved overseas, is because we have a corrupt system with corrupt unions and whatever, raising the cost of living. We have a government that is controlling everything, raising the cost of living, forcing mothers, instead of raising their children, they're out working and their kids are on the street. And that's another problem that he doesn't face. It's not the fact that the mother wants to go work because she wants to enrich herself and find herself. It's because they don't have enough money. And they don't have enough money because the government's spending money like it's going out of style. Right now, our government, if you get all the debt in the United States, it's over $250 quadrillion. Everyone's got to work. Everyone's broke. The whole place is broke. But let's not blame the companies. Let's blame the corporations. No, the corporations are there to satisfy the needs of the company, of the customer. And the customer includes even those people that they're talking about that are broke. Everyone, not only the rich, not only the middle class, but as well as the poor. And yet, we can buy practically any product you want at one of these dollar stores. And relatively poor people can live on a relatively high plane if they know what to do and how to do it. But they don't even learn that. They don't even learn how to purchase things. My cousin Susan, she died a few years ago. She was a wonderful, beautiful girl, just absolutely gorgeous, beautiful woman, had 3 children, just wonderful person. I remember she went to school and she took home economics in high school. She was a brilliant girl. Home economics. Do we teach that anymore? Do we teach in our schools the fact that even if you're making very little money, like I did, I was a sales promotion advertising coordinator for the AMC stores in Manhattan, my office in Manhattan. I made $62.50 a month in New York City. But I always put $5 away. Because, see, at least my family says, you save the money or I break your face. That's what my father was to say, right? And he was right. But today it's spend, buy the new car, buy this, buy that, smoke this, smoke that, and put it on your credit card. Well, why don't we teach kids how to make money in school? Then we wouldn't have any homeless people. We wouldn't have any jobless people because people would invest whatever little money they made. They'd see that I can actually make money as an investor in a company. I want to start my own company. I will try this, and that, see what works. And I too want to be wealthy. But no, all we talk about is the corporations are bad, money is bad, government is good, the school system is perfect, and the world is just friggin' wonderful. Well, it's not. It's down the tubes. We're becoming a second-class nation because we're not waking up to the fact that the free market system has been absolutely sacrificed for socialism. Well, that's all I had to say. Just a few words. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can send me an email, okay? Tell me how much you enjoyed it. I appreciate it. I'm sorry for the rant, but I just had to get this off my head. I'm just so hacked when I listen to these socialists on TV. It's tough for me to contain it, okay? Well, this is the end of today's broadcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors for their financial support, and we'd like to thank you for listening in. You can further the cause of liberty by recommending this program to your friends and let us hear from you. Our email address is comments@libertytalkradio.com. Until next time, stay well, stay tuned.